What happens when a black girl becomes the target of the most feared bully in school? Until everything changes. Chapter 1. On the Margins. Kennedy Walker had always known where she stood at Willow Ridge High School in Beaufort, South Carolina. She wasn't naive. As one of the very few black students enrolled in the school, she understood her place, on the outside looking in, and it didn't matter how much she kept her head down or tried to blend into the crowd. The lines had already been drawn long before she arrived. It was in the way teachers seemed to grade her papers with extra scrutiny, how school security always seemed to just happen to be nearby whenever she walked down the hall. And the whispers, they weren't even subtle anymore. Why is she even here? Guess they needed to fill a diversity quota. Bet her dad bailed a long time ago. Kennedy heard them. She always did. But she never reacted. She couldn't. She knew what would happen if she did. They'd call her angry, aggressive, a problem, the angry black girl. She had seen it before, and she wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. So she kept quiet. She sat by herself at lunch. She answered only when teachers asked her directly. She made herself small, unnoticeable, but Landon Graves made sure that was impossible. Chapter 2. The Golden Boy. Landon wasn't just popular at Willow Ridge High. He was untouchable. The son of Judge Mason Graves, Landon had the kind of name that could open doors and close cases before they ever made it to court. Teachers adored him. Parents invited him to their lake houses and country clubs. Students followed his lead as if he was royalty. And for the past 2 months, Landon had made Kennedy his personal target. It started with small things. Accidentally knocking her books out of her hands, brushing past her in the hallways just hard enough to make her stumble. But it escalated fast. Soon, his friends were joining in, laughing when he muttered things loud enough for her to hear. Careful, guys. Don't get too close. She might steal your wallet. She smells like that dollar store hair grease. Surprise her kind even makes it to senior year. Kennedy would clench her jaw, force her feet forward, and pretend their words didn't sting. She had learned long ago, speaking up didn't help. Teachers would glance away. Principal Simmons would brush it off as boys being boys. And the next day, it would all start again. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point. It was a Thursday when Kennedy finally broke. She had just unwrapped her peanut butter sandwich in the cafeteria when a shadow fell across her table. She didn't need to look up. She already knew. Landon was there, sneering down at her. "What's for lunch today, Walker?" he asked, snatching the brown paper bag from her hands and holding it up as if it were contaminated. "Peanut butter?" He grimaced, tearing open the bag. "What?" "Daddy's new job at the gas station, not paying enough for real food." Laughter rippled around them as Kennedy's hands curled into fists beneath the table. She wanted to tell him off. She wanted to grab her lunch back. But she didn't. She never did. Landon leaned in, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You should be thanking me," he whispered. "I'm helping you keep that mouth shut." And then, with a flick of his wrist, he tossed her sandwich over his shoulder. It hit the tile with a soft splat. Kennedy's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to stay composed. She bent down to pick it up, but before she could, Landon's polished shoe came down, grinding it into the floor. "Oops," someone snickered nearby. "Should be used to picking up scraps anyway." Kennedy stood slowly, breathing hard through her nose. She grabbed her backpack, pushed past the tables, past the stairs and whispers, and kept walking. But just as she reached the cafeteria doors, a voice cut through the noise. "That's enough." Chapter 4. The Twist. The entire room went silent. Kennedy turned, shocked. There stood Asher Brooks. Tall, lean, with messy sandy hair and sharp green eyes. Asher could have been part of Landon's clique. But he wasn't. He never had been. And now he was standing between Kennedy and the Golden Boy himself. Landon's smirk didn't falter. "Asher," he said, drawing out the name. "Lost or something?" Asher didn't blink. "I said enough. Leave her alone." A ripple of murmurs swept through the room. Landon's head tilted, amusement turning to annoyance. "Didn't peg you for the charity type," he said coolly. Asher's jaw clenched. "And I didn't peg you for a coward." That did it. For the first time, someone had called Landon out. In public. And it wasn't just someone. It was Asher Brooks, the kid who didn't play games, the kid who didn't back down. For a tense second, Kennedy thought Landon might swing at him. But then Landon scoffed, like it was all beneath him, and sauntered away with one final glare at Kennedy. Asher turned to her. "You okay?" Kennedy blinked, unsure what to say. No one had ever stood up for her before. She nodded once. Asher motioned to the empty seat across from her. "Mind if I sit? You want to sit here?" He shrugged. "Figure if I do. Maybe someone else will next time." Kennedy wasn't sure if that was true, but it was the first time in a long time that she didn't feel completely alone. Chapter 5, The Fallout. That night, Kennedy barely spoke to her father. She quietly dropped her backpack by her bedroom door and shut it gently behind her. Her dad noticed anyway. "You okay, Ken?" he called from the kitchen. "Yeah," she lied. "Just tired." She didn't tell him about Landon. She didn't tell him about Asher. Her dad had enough to deal with already. After moving to Beaufort to take over as the new police chief, he had stepped into a political mess left behind by the last guy. Kennedy figured she could handle high school drama on her own. But the next day proved otherwise. Landon didn't let up. Before first period, she was at her locker when something slammed hard into her back. She stumbled forward, nearly hitting her head on the cold metal. Landon stood nearby, smirking. "My bad, Walker. Didn't see you there." By lunch, there was a new rumor. She'd swung on Landon, tried to fight him, and cried afterward. Landon sat at his table like none of it mattered, scrolling through his phone as whispers followed Kennedy everywhere. Except this time, Asher was waiting. And this time, people noticed. Chapter 6, Power Shifts. The next few days felt different. Eyes followed Kennedy in the halls. Some curious, some judging, some whispering behind their hands. And Landon, he wasn't finished. By Wednesday, he cornered her at her locker again. "Enjoying your new little bodyguard?" Landon sneered. "Didn't think you needed a white savior." Kennedy's fists clenched, but she kept her head down. "You think he really gives a damn?" Landon continued. "They never do. He'll get bored. Move on. And then where will you be?" Kennedy slammed her locker shut, staring him down. "I don't need anyone to fight for me." Landon's smile widened. "Cute," he said. "But you and I both know, kids like me, we win. Kids like you disappear." But Kennedy wasn't trembling anymore. Not from fear. Not this time. And then Asher was there again. "Is there a problem here?" Landon stepped back, hands raised in mock innocence. "Just having a friendly chat." Chapter 7, The Smear Campaign. Later, Kennedy's phone buzzed. It was a photo, a heavily edited photo of her, taken when she had shoved Landon's hand away in the parking lot the day before. Her face was twisted. Her hands looked like claws. Across the top, bold red letters screamed, "Psycho Walker can't control herself." The comments were worse. "She looks insane. Probably attacked Asher too." Playing the victim. Classic. Kennedy's chest tightened. But Asher was already on his phone. "This is what bullies do," he posted. "They lie. They twist the truth. They use power to silence people. Don't let them." And that post? It went viral. Chapter 8, The Reckoning. The next day, Landon was nowhere to be seen. But then the doors of the cafeteria opened. Judge Graves walked in, with Principal Simmons trailing behind him like a scolded puppy. Asher was called to the office. Kennedy's gut told her something bad was coming. When he returned, Asher's expression was unreadable. "They're threatening to suspend me," he said quietly. "For defamation." Kennedy's blood ran cold. But Asher shook his head. "I'm not taking it down." And he didn't. And neither did his father, Daniel Brooks, U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina. By the next day, federal investigators were walking through Willow Ridge High. Principal Simmons was escorted out. Judge Graves was under federal investigation for corruption and intimidation. And Landon Graves? Expelled. Chapter 9, The New Normal. By Friday, Kennedy walked through the halls of Willow Ridge High with something she hadn't felt in years. Relief. Landon's locker was empty. Students whispered, but not about her. About what happens when people fight back. She sat across from Asher at lunch. "They're all quiet now," he said. "They're scared," Kennedy replied. And she realized something. For years, she had thought people like Landon always won because they were stronger. But they weren't. They won because no one stood up to them. Until now. Chapter 10, The Future. Kennedy knew there would always be another Landon. Another Simmons. Another judge willing to protect their own at any cost. But now she also knew something else. She wasn't alone anymore. And that changed everything.